Hi everybody, we're on to another discussion again, and now we're on week 8, which we will be discussing is cloud governance. So I have broken this discussion into four parts. First, we will explain what cloud governance actually is. Then we will go through the five cloud governance principles. And after that, we will talk about a three-part solution for making cloud governance work. And finally, we will be covering cataloging control and compliance data and why a service catalog matters on a cloud environment. So let's get into it. Um, we need to answer the questions, what is cloud governance? So at most abstract level, it is about making sure that we are governing is doing the right things the right way. So there's like a framework called Open Group, and it breaks this down into three core questions that every organizations need to answer. The first one is, are we doing the right things? So in other words, are cloud investment actually supporting the business? The second is, are we doing them in the right way? Meaning, is our processes and policies sound? And the third one is, how do we know? So, which is really about measurement and evidence. So, if you cannot answer the third questions, the first two do not actually matter. So, we need to answer all of these. So, more formally, cloud governance is a view of IT governance focused on three things, which is accountability, decision rights, and balancing value, risk, and resources. So, it's not just about technology, it is about who is allowed to make which decisions, who is responsible when something goes wrong, and how the organization weighs the benefits against the risk or the costs. So it creates a business-driven policies for the cloud, which means that the policies follow the cloud service from the moment that it is adopted or the moment that they started using it up until it ends or up until it retires. So a really important point is that cloud governance is a shared responsibility. So it is shared responsibility between a user and cloud provider. So cloud governance is not just a responsibility for the user. It's not just a responsibility for the cloud provider, but it is a shared one. So as you can see in the diagram, the organization is responsible for its own site. So they are responsible for its own data center, private cloud, business policies, while the cloud provider is responsible for their own public cloud infrastructure, platform services, SLAs, and such. So in the middle, it is overlapped by a shared governance zone. So the tricky part is that you have to govern your own infrastructure plus the infrastructure that you do not fully control. So you may not have like a full insight into the provider's environment. So that's like a real challenge when you need to meet like compliance or audit requirements. So while you are doing your cloud governance strategy, you have to keep in mind both these two. And it has to reflect a mix of like internal data center, private cloud, and public cloud in order it to be successful. So if it's done well, if it's successful, it delivers four outcomes. First one is business alignment, so that your cloud spending actually matches the business objective instead of like becoming just a cost that has no value. Second one is data integrity. So your data stays accurate, consistent, and secure no matter where it lives. Third one is innovation because good governance encourages agility and new capabilities rather than blocking them. The fourth one is risk and compliance. So it's about mitigation and data loss and regulatory risk. So governance is not just about like a control mechanism that you have to do. So it is the one that allows the cloud to be useful and safe at the same time. And now we'll go through the five cloud governance principle. So you can see in the diagram, this applies from start to end. First one is compliance with policies and standards. So it should be open, consistent, and consistent with industry standard and also complementary to what the enterprise already use. So it lets the organization anticipate and address the risks around security, privacy, and business continuity. So it favors like interoperability since cloud always deal like multiple providers and services that need to work together. Second principle is that business objective must drive cloud strategy. So your cloud strategy should be part of the overall business and IT strategy. It's not a thing that's sitting separate on the side. So it needs to be driven by both the business of the business and the business of the IT. So that's kind of like a mind blowing twister, tongue twister thingy. But the thing is that um, what organization actually does and how IT supports that should be aligned to your cloud governance. So the implication is that business and IT stakeholders must be involved from the start, not just the IT. So if you let just the IT decide the cloud strategy, you end up with technology that does nothing to serve or fulfill your business. Third one is collaborative contracts between cloud ecosystem citizens. We have this cloud ecosystem before. I think that was like last week, and it's all of these elements that work together inside the ecosystem. And if a lot of elements are working together, they have a need. There's need to be a clear goals and agreements between them. So since cloud ecosystems are made up of different players, there should be like an SLA that would, or like contracts in many different forms that would set up set up rules on the game. So SLAs are very fundamental because if a cloud service is for example, SLA contains what should be like the uptime or the availability. And if that is not um that is not agreed upon and if a cloud services fail, there's like a major financial business impact. That's why SLA are important to back that up. So as I said, there are contracts and they have a different form. So if like inside the organization can be called as memorandum of understanding, and across enterprises there used to be like legally binding contracts. So either way, the point is that everyone knows their role, their authority, and their accountability before something goes wrong. Next one is change management processes. So change must be handled in a consistent and standardized way across the whole ecosystem. The point is that, as I said before, there's like an interoperability across the whole environment. So if you change one thing on your cloud services, it will definitely cascade and affect the whole cloud environment. So you have to be strict and consistent the way you handle change. Fifth and final one is the vitality processes for continuous improvement, which means that the governance processes must be dynamically monitored, and these events can trigger improvements since enterprises change constantly because of like market demands or like shifting objectives. So governance cannot stay static. It has to keep adjusting to stay aligned with the business. And we need to monitor the infrastructure always because monitoring helps you know like the gap that needs to be improved, and you cannot improve it what you cannot see. That's why you have to monitor. That brings us to the third topic, which is a three-part solution for making governance work. So effective cloud governance is about people, it's also about process and technology. So we got three parts working together. First one is internal governance body. This is your organization's own board for cloud issues. So they oversight the cloud use. So this includes like business representatives, and it develop the best practices inside your own organization. Next one is the external governance bodies. We have discussed this before. These are like industry-wide groups that handle standards. Some was ISO or like PCI-DSS for financial management, and other external bodies that make you um that make you adhere to the industry qualified certification and such. First one is third one is monitoring technology. So these are the tools that watch the cloud automatically. So they cover automated monitoring, dashboard, and KPIs. So all of these work together, and if one is missing, the whole governance breaks down. Now, on the final topic, cataloging, control, and compliance setup. So, organization only use a service catalog to record their ID services, but since we're using cloud, the catalog needs to be extended to include cloud services. So, as you can see in the example table, the catalog lists the services with a contact who has the change authority, critical apps, last incident, and link SLA. I'm just going to the next slide to discuss it further. Yes, so the catalog should include these. From the contact was authority, critical application, applications or accidents, relationship documentation. So you can see the table. The service maybe is the AWS S3 storage. What's the contact? It's JSmeet. The change authority is the cloud ops lead. And the critical apps inside into it is the customer relationship management and billing. And it can also list like the last incident and the link SLA that has happened. Once a catalog is in place, it can power like a live dashboard. So this is where your governance become like a visible day-to-day thingy. So the dashboard can include uptime, incident, SLA, open tickets, blah blah blah. So instead of having like a static document, you got a live monitoring tool. So since you cannot monitor what you have not cataloged, this is why you need to catalog all your services so you can watch and see how are they performing. And why does it matter? Because it gives you like a single source of truth. So it gives you like an ownership and you know what's to contact when something breaks. So it supports audits and compliance because everything is tracked in one place and it strengthens like the change management. Like what I have discussed earlier, change management is that when you do one thing on your cloud services, it will affect massively the other cloud services because they are tied upon together. It is a cascading thingy. So it supports change management because it lets you see what will be affected if you change one thing. So yeah, that's it for week 8. And thanks for listening.